Hello, I'm the 10 Minute English teacher. Let's get you exam ready. Today we're thinking about A Christmas Carol by Charles Dickens, and I'm going to be providing you with a guide, summary and analysis for the character Fred. Before we get going, don't forget to like and subscribe. There are plenty of things on the channel to help you revise A Christmas Carol and other texts you might be studying. Okay, the character Fred. In front of you now are key moments that involve Fred in A Christmas Carol. I'll walk you through them. First time we meet Fred, he turns up at Scrooge's counting house and invites his uncle to spend Christmas Day with him. Scrooge declines, but we do see that Fred is filled with Christmas cheer and generosity, quite the antithesis to Scrooge. The next time we meet Fred is in Stave 3, when the Ghost of Christmas Present takes Scrooge to see what he could have been a part of when he refused to attend the Christmas celebrations at Fred's home. Fred is playing games with his guests and is full of Christmas cheer, and Scrooge feels that he's missed out on a wonderful opportunity. Fred then speaks about his uncle and raises a toast to him, but he does say that he pities Scrooge and that his money doesn't bring him any happiness. The next time Fred is mentioned is in Stave 4. Tiny Tim has passed away and it's a scene filled with pathos at the Cratchit's home. And Bob Cratchit talks about having seen Fred in the street and refers to him as a gentleman, and talks about the fact that he was very sympathetic towards Bob. And even in a moment of grief and sadness, Fred has been able to bring some joy and comfort to somebody, very contrasting to Scrooge. At the very end of the novella, Scrooge turns up and humbly asks if he can attend the party at Fred's house, and does. Happy endings all round. And that takes us to quotes to note. First time we meet Fred is at the counting house, and he says, "There are many things which I have derived good, by which I have not profited." So it's a great quote there. It's what Dickens wants the readers to reflect on, the idea that actually our lives can be made more meaningful by being generous and sharing with others, and that gain is not the most important thing in life. And he's contrasting and juxtaposing the word good with profited there to oppose those ideas. He says that Christmas is a good time, a kind, forgiving, charitable, pleasant time. And his listing there is used to juxtapose the listing that Dickens uses to describe Scrooge earlier on, when he calls Scrooge a squeezing, wrenching, grasping, scraping, clutching, covetous old sinner. So very much Fred and Scrooge are opposing characters in that respect, and Dickens's similar uses of language help to pit them against each other. Fred talks about people being fellow passengers to the grave, which suggests that he looks at others as equals and doesn't value people based on their wealth or worth in society. Scrooge says to him, "Why did you get married?" which shows that he doesn't understand love or the idea of spending time with others or dedicating your life to other people, as Fred has done. Fred's home, when we visit in Stave 3, is bright, dry and gleaming, so that definitely associates him with light, and Scrooge is associated with darkness. When he talks about Scrooge's money, he says, "I pity him," and Dickens very much wants the reader to pity Scrooge too, just as Fred does. Later on, Bob Cratchit talks about the extraordinary kindness of Mr. Scrooge's nephew. So even in a time of grief and sadness, Fred is bringing joy and comfort somewhat to others. And Bob Cratchit also says it really seemed as if he'd known our Tiny Tim and felt with us. And that's what Bob Cratchit says after having met Fred in the street. And of course, we felt like we knew Tiny Tim, and we were feeling that pain with the Cratchits too, because of Dickens' use of pathos. And he certainly wants us to try and be more like Fred than Scrooge. And that takes us to analysis. So darkness versus light is a binary opposition in the novel, and Fred's house is bright, dry and gleaming. This symbolises happiness and redemption, and contrasts Scrooge's mouldy old offices when Fred reminds us of them. Scrooge is associated with darkness, which alludes to sin and consequences in the afterlife. So, as I said before, Scrooge is contrasted by Fred. So Dickens uses Fred to communicate his messages about Christmas. He says Christmas is a good time, a kind, forgiving, charitable, pleasant time. And this use of listing places Fred and his values in opposition to Scrooge, who is a squeezing, wrenching, grasping, scraping, clutching, covetous old sinner. That idea of Scrooge being a sinner suggests that he is going to face consequences and suffering in the afterlife. Fred being associated with generosity and light suggests that he is somebody who will be rewarded in the afterlife. So you could say it's symbolic that at the end of the novel, Scrooge ends up in that very bright situation in Fred's front room, in that that Christmas celebration. And we've got metaphorical blindness and insight as another concept that you can apply to the character Fred. He's got insight that Scrooge lacks. He talks of others as fellow passengers to the grave, looking beyond class and wealth in his approach to others. Scrooge gains the insight that Fred has at the end, and those who would laugh at the change in Scrooge would be blind anyway, says our narrator Dickens as the novel closes. Okay, if you want to take it further, watch the video again and mute the sound. Can you talk your way through the key moments in time with the yellow marker to remind yourself what happens? If you get stuck, unmute to hear the explanation. Can you explain the significance of each key quotation instead of me in time with them changing? Okay, check out the other videos on my channel. I'll continue to add content. Feel free to ask something you'd like to see me cover in the comments section. Don't forget to like and subscribe and share, and keep revising.